All right, at 6 o'clock, I'll go ahead and call to order the regular meeting of the City Council for August 16th, 2021. Looks like all present and accounted for. I will lead the invocation and Pledge of Allegiance this evening. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for this opportunity to come together to do the people's business. Lord, we ask that you grant us wisdom and humility as we seek to do and serve our community. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, the next item up is special guests and announcements. It's with great honor that I get to name the Mayor's Employee of the Month for March as Keith Vi. Keith, come on down. Come on up, whatever side you want. I almost didn't recognize you. You look so clean cut right now. I've got a proclamation naming Keith Vi as the Mayor's Employee of the Month for March 2021 and declaring August 20th, 2021 as Keith Vi Day in the City of Maumelle. Whereas Keith Vi began his career with the City of Maumelle in 2014 as building maintenance supervisor, using his skills in carpentry, plumbing, electrical, and technology to maintain all city facilities. Whereas Mr. Vi has proven himself a valuable asset to the city, often going above and beyond his normal duties to assist in other departments in the city. Whereas Mr. Vi has shown consistent dedication to his role through the creation of many beautiful projects around the city. Of note is the fire department display case in the lobby of Station 1. And whereas Mr. Vi has proven himself an invaluable team member of Public Works Department through his ethical, honest, and positive demeanor. Now, therefore, I, Caleb Norris, Mayor of Maumelle, on the 16th day of August, do hereby declare Keith Vi to be the Mayor's Employee of the Month for March 2021, and hereby proclaim August 20th, 2021 to be Keith Vi Day in the City of Maumelle. So please join me in congratulating Keith. You good?
Sorry.
There you go.
Kind words.
Thank you.
Mayor.
For those that don't know, you can often find Keith's handiwork by looking around at random signs such as emergency exit only, or things such as the construction of ramps in the council chambers and the like. Keith has his hands in nearly every department in every building in the city. So, with that, we will move on to the approval of minutes for August 2nd, regular meeting. Y'all have received a copy of that in your packet. If there's no discussion on that, I'd entertain a motion to adopt.
So moved. Second.
I've got a motion and second. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
All opposed, no. Motion carries. We will move on to public comment. I've got two public comment cards. One is on an agenda item, and so we will discuss that when we get to that agenda item. And then I've got one on a non-agenda item. Mr. Chance Edge, come on down. You're first up. If you could state your name and address for the record, sir, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Appreciate it. Chance Edge, 160 Calais. I'm a father of 4 and 8-year resident of Maumelle. I'm also a career health and safety professional who's certified to teach medic first aid and CPR. I was also employed as a lifeguard for 5 summers through high school and college. Since 2014, I've seen a consistent pattern of poor lifeguard performance, not only at the end of the summer, but throughout the entire summer. Examples include lifeguards sitting on the edge of the pool with very poor, unelevated perspective. I've observed a recurrence of friends, coworkers, and even lead guards coming up alongside or in front of on-duty lifeguards just to talk, distracting them for extended periods. And lastly, I've rarely seen the lifeguards effectively or actively scanning the pool as taught as a basic expectation in every lifeguard training certification. Through the years, on numerous occasions, after making one of these observations, I've made comments about inattention or distraction to both individual lifeguards and managers, but have never seen any noticeable actions taken or any change in behavior. Last year, my wife noticed a small child playing with our son. The boy did not have on a life jacket, and we noticed his mother was not particularly paying good attention to him. We watched as the boy jumped into the forfeit area where he could not touch. No lifeguards reacted. My wife had to run across the pool and jump in and pull him out. After this, I reached out to the director and assistant director at the time to express my concern. I even offered to come speak to the lifeguards about the importance of their jobs. I was assured the issue would be addressed, but within the same summer, I saw more of the same. After this experience, we've made a conscious effort to remind our friends and other members of the pool to pay extra attention to your children, because it does not appear that the lifeguards are doing that. This past Sunday, August the 8th, my son, who is a fairly good swimmer, was pulled underwater where he couldn't touch by another boy who was wearing a life jacket. As usual, we were watching him, and we were able to respond. I immediately left my chair and began running to him. Right before I got to him, the other little boy let go, and he resurfaced as I got to him. As this all occurred right in front of the lifeguard. He did not move an inch or seem concerned when approached by my wife about the situation. After bringing attention to the incident pretty much to everyone at the pool, I decided to follow up again by bringing it up to Parks and Rec and to my alderman. Lastly, coincidentally, it came to my attention that someone had posted on a local Facebook page that a similar experience had happened to her the day before on Saturday the 7th. And while there were a couple of comments noting instances of lifeguards reacting quickly, there were many more comments that reflected my observations. Reports of lifeguards on smartwatches, umbrellas down, blocking the field of view, general inattention, and unruly teens not being dealt with, as well as 3 mentions of similar near drownings. My reason for bringing this up is only to bring attention to what appears to be a consistent trend, some enhanced training and more accountability for the guards will ensure we can all continue to enjoy the pool and everyone goes home safely. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Edge.
Yeah.
The next item of business is the financial statement review. Ms. Mathis.
Good evening. Taking a look here at July 31st, or the end of July of 2021. Still have my note on there about current year to prior year comparisons. I have not yet had an opportunity to finish those closing entries. So not making comparisons to prior year where they're not reasonable comparisons. Our county millage tax, current year to date is $115,000 ahead of our budget year to date. This trend is going to continue to vary throughout the year. That number will probably go down and then back up again in October when we see that second largest receipt of our millage tax. Franchise fees, current year to date is $7,000 ahead of a budget year to date. Our state turnback funds are $11,000 ahead of budget year to date. Still kind of hoping to see some increased distributions from the state that they talked about last year. Haven't really seen that come in yet, but kind of crossing my fingers there. County sales tax, current year to date is $509,000 ahead of budget year to date. This amount is for taxes collected on sales in May that were collected by the state in June. A little bit different story here with city sales tax. Current year to date is $132,000 behind budget year to date for the same time period. The mayor and I discussed this a little bit last week when we looked at these numbers. We forecasted some projections on budget on the city sales tax based on 2020, which of course was a crazy year for everybody, and so we're trending a little bit below that. Hoping to see it turn around, but we're more than making up for it on the county tax side. Police department, current year to date revenues are $64,000 ahead of budget year to date, $24,000 more than the prior year, and those LOPP funds, turnback funds were received in July. Both in police and fire, the turnback was just a couple $1,000s higher than what we budgeted for them, so right on target there. Fire department, current year to date is $130,000 ahead of budget year to date and $43,000 more than the prior year. Parks and recreation fees, current year is $11,000 ahead of budget year to date and $168,000 more than the prior year. Senior Wellness Center, current year to date is $40,000 behind budget, but $4,000 more than the prior year. We're still watching that, and those expenses are right at $37,000 under budget year to date. Miscellaneous income, we've kind of been talking about this. Largest budgeted item in this category is the $646,000 transfer from the capital improvement fund. We did record that in July to coincide with the purchase of the new fire engine, the majority of which was paid for in July. We have some equipment pieces still kind of trickling in on that over the next couple of months. Expenditures in all departments, except for citywide services, remain at or below budget year to date. The reason citywide services is showing otherwise is that software expenses, membership fees, and our liability insurance are all paid at the beginning of the year. So they've kind of used their whole budget line right off the top. Overall, expenses are $466,000 under budget year to date and $24,000 less than the prior year. Our general fund balance at the end of June, the fund balance was $452,000 over the required minimum balance. It's the first time I've gotten to say that in a couple of months. Current year revenues are currently $1.3 million more than expenses, which is why that I'm able to say that we're over our required minimum reserve balance at this time. We still have reconciliation work to complete, as we've been talking about, to get a more accurate picture of the balance at the year end of 2020. But so far this year is trending very well, looking very well. We do know we have some revenues, of course, that are up so far this year, some of which we won't see more of throughout the year. So we're just going to continue to watch all of that as we go. Street fund, our county millage tax is $43,000 ahead of budget year to date. And our turnback funds are $74,000 ahead of budget year to date. Both streets and senior services, their expenses remain under budget. And the street fund available balance at the end of July is just at $4.8 million. Sanitation fund, current year to date, is around $12,000 ahead of budget year to date. And operating expenses are $62,000 under budget and $13,000 less than the prior year. Their personnel expenses are $90,000 under budget and $54,000 more than the previous year. Current available sanitation fund balance at the end of July was $1.9 million. That capital improvement fund, I kind of put a little bit more in here this month because it changed for the first time in a while. That $646,000 transfer was completed and leaving a fund balance of $204,000. Police and fire fund transfers still happening monthly. The current year receipts are $81,000 ahead of budget year to date. And the FEMA grant fund, not really seeing any movement there. We kind of, I'm not sure entirely where I think the project slowed a little bit. It's not happening, it just slowed down. And then I put on here our COVID-19 relief fund. In July, the city did receive the first tranche of the American Rescue Plan Act funds as part of the coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery funds. The second payment will be received in a year. The total of the ARPA funds the city will receive is just over $3.7 million. These funds were placed in the COVID-19 relief fund as well as a separate money market account. The city has been actively researching the possible usage of these funds and will be bringing forward recommendations to the city council after Treasury interim final rules, but we're hoping to wait on the final rules. If we come to some recommendations prior to that time, the interim final rules will apply to whatever decision is made at that point in time when those funds are committed. Funds won't be spent without city council appropriation. And just kind of as a side note, these funds have to be obligated, which means either committed under contract or on a purchase order by December 31st of 2024. And all projects have to be completed and paid for by December 31st of 2026. So the big message, unilaterally, no matter what source you're looking at, tends to be, take your time with this. Make sure you're spending it the way you best need to spend it. Obviously, the pandemic's not over yet either, and so we'll be coming forward with more on that, but for now, I just wanted you to see that the money we're sitting in separate funds, segregated so that we can track them because it is a very large amount of federal grant funds for the city to be receiving.
All right. Councilmember Gardner?
Thank you, Mayor. Just, I guess a question on receiving those funds. Do we need to do a budget resolution for those since money was received and moved? How does that
For
apply?
the appropriations, yeah, if you're referring to the ARPA funds?
Yes,
The grant?
the ones that were put into the COVID fund.
Yeah, when we, need to spend it or roll it out at that point. Yeah.
Okay, I just didn't know if we needed to accept it. That was my question.
I don't believe so. It is not like, it's that special fund for the grants.
Okay. Thank you.
Good question, though. Councilmember Mazzoni?
Yeah, first, pretty impressive how across all the divisions, not only keeping within budget, but down almost all compared to last year. So even though last year was a crazy year, every year, especially now with inflation, things are going up. So all the good work for everyone else. The question is more on the county sales tax. So I'm afraid I don't want us to get into a situation next year with the county sales tax that we do with the city sales tax this year, because it's statistically abnormally high based on everyone coming out of the pandemic and spending. Talking with the other ones around, is there any feel for how long they think that's going to last? Or, because at some point the party's going to be over and we need some, try and figure out how to plan realistically next year rather than plan for money we may or may not have.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be one of the challenges going into our budget is our last couple of years, revenue-wise, may not be consistent growth or even consistent results or from what you see. And so looking at, a 5-year average growth rate or something like that and kind of going from a base and moving up from that might be a possible method, but that's something we'll just have to kind of look at. We certainly don't want to put the city in a position to over budget revenues and the associated expenditures and then come in really short from that.
Councilmember Mosley?
Yes, I just wanted to thank you for meeting with 4 council members there. I guess it was about a week ago. Appreciate your time. We met for, I guess, about an hour and 15 minutes. And it was myself and Mr. Holt and Mr. Shin and Mr. Mazzoni. So thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome.
Councilmember Holt?
Let me add my thanks very much to your enduring patience and kindness to share that with us. Detail. My heart goes out to you for what you have been going through and continue to go through. I know that we're going to come out okay. I at a point in time after you'd gone through all that, I thought we were at a point, and so I asked, so we really do know where we actually are right now? And your response was, no, we really don't know exactly where we are right now. So I want to make sure that they didn't, no one thinks that I made this up. We're still digging through the details, and we have some stuff to get cleared before we really actually know exactly where we are financially for the city. Am I right or wrong on that?
That's correct. We still need to complete our reconciliations and closing entries for 2020.
Okay.
So we have one more year left to reconcile. But right now, the priority is trying to get 18's annual financial report wrapped up.
Right.
And so we're trying to finish that, and then we'll flip and try to reconcile 20 as we go into the budget process, because we really do want to know what that position looked like at the end of 2020 before we start planning another year. So that's where we're prioritizing right now, juggling time, but yeah.
Just so we can sort of sit in our chair and remain patient, is there in your mind's eye, based on the time you've already had to spend to get to where you are, any idea as to what your estimate might be as to a completion date? It's not that it's, has to be written on the wall, but what do you think?
For which one?
Bad question.
For 18, or to have 2020 reconciled?
Well, to where you will say, I'm done all the way up to the date, and now we know where we are.
My hope, and I will use that word, it's a hope, is that we can have that finished up by the end of this month. Just because we really do need to know where that is by the time we start really working on our 2022 budget. So.
Okay, so then we will be able to have the report of the 3 audits after that?
Yeah, I mean, they take some time to put together, and they will still have to finish some audit work on 2019, and then they'll have to do all the audit work on 2020. We have not engaged an audit firm for 2020 yet. But it would put us in a position that we're ready for them as soon as we can do that. But we have to finish 18 and then 19 before we can really do that, so,
Appreciate you, thank you.
no problem.
Councilmember Mosley?
Yeah, 2019, are we already caught up on those for reconciliations?
Yes, 19 is reconciled, and
Fully reconciled?
we may have some adjusting entries to make, but they're accrual entries where we might move expenses into 19 and then reverse them into 20 and stuff like that. So as far as fund balance is concerned, 19 is pretty well finished.
Okay, so the key is getting through 2020 reconciliations and what that hits on the cash account and that sort of thing, so.
Yeah, I've got some staff working on some of the accounts, and we'll be done with those by next week, which will just leave the 3 biggest ones that I will need to work on. And I will get on those as soon as we get the, at least draft of the audited portion of the annual financial report to the audit firm, which we're working on trying to do this week.
All right, thank you, ma'am, appreciate it.
All right, thank you, Ms. Mathis. At this time, I'd entertain a motion to accept the financials. I've got a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
All opposed, no. Motion carries. We will move right on to department reports. Will be at the next meeting. Planning Commission report at the next meeting. Procedural motion. I entertain a motion to have all ordinances and resolutions read by title only. I've got a motion and a second. Do I have any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
All opposed, no. Motion carries. We'll move on to unfinished business. Councilmember Mazzoni?
Yes, due to the upcoming town hall meeting for the next 3 ordinances, I make a motion that we table the second reading to the next council reading. That way we can get a good vibe on what the concerns of the people are and give the contractor time to work out, so we don't just have them meet and then we end up voting the next one.
I second the motion.
I've got a motion and a second to table ordinance 1037, 1038, and 1039 until
Till there'll be the one, or the 1st September.
the first September council meeting.
Yes, sir.
All right. Is there any discussion on that motion? Councilmember Holt?
Yes, it's been pointed out that the meeting that they're having Thursday at 6 p.m. was going to be here in the City Hall in the Blue Room. It has suddenly exploded to the point that it now is going to be in the Community Center. So apparently there is indeed an enormous amount of response to it. I just got that this afternoon. So I was going to offer the same motion. Mr. Bill, my resident, Mr. Bill Donner had asked me to make that motion, and he feels like that in the discussion there may be some agreements that would come along that would actually change what they're voting on now, what the Planning Commission approved, and to where it might have to go back to them for a new redo of it. So it seems to be premature that we can wait one more or 2 more weeks before we get that, and he would like to have the meeting done first before we do any further progress on the motion.
So just to be clear, make sure I understand, we haven't had the second reading. That'll put the second reading at the first meeting in September to be voted on at the following meeting.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
I would just, if I could provide quick commentary on the thoughts of this. My understanding is the property owner has voluntarily agreed to meet with some residents, and as a result, his project is being slowed down. I would just, as you discuss this and go on, keep in mind what incentives and signals you're sending to other people about their willingness to want to voluntarily meet. With that, Councilmember Gardner?
I think I was just gonna ask if there's been any discussion with the sponsor. I guess that would be you, Mayor, about delaying this, or if there's been any discussions with the applicant about delaying it.
This is the first I've heard of
Okay,
anything
that answers
along
my
these lines,
question.
yeah.
Thank you.
Councilmember Mosley?
Yeah, I'd support moving it back a little bit. I've spent a lot of time today getting down in the weeds on this, and my head's spinning somewhat after that. And I think it'd be best if we kind of slowed this and observed a meeting or two and before we go ahead. So I definitely support this motion. Thank you.
All right, any additional discussion? I have a motion and a second to have the second reading of ordinances 1037, 1038, and 1039 at the first meeting in September. All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
All opposed, no. Motion carries. With that, we will move on to the second reading of ordinance 1040, accepting annexation of land Bradley property. Madam City Clerk Treasurer, if you could please read that by title only.
Be it enacted by the City Council of the City of Maumelle, County of Pulaski, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled Ordinance Number 1040, an ordinance accepting the annexation of land commonly known as the Bradley property, to be titled the Bradley Property Annexation to the City of Maumelle, Arkansas, and making the Bradley property a part of the City of Maumelle and for other purposes.
All right, this is on second reading. If there's no discussion, it'll be on third reading at the next City Council meeting. Councilmember Mosley?
Yeah, I just thought I'd share an experience I had yesterday. Actually, I drove down Old Maumelle Highway. That was the original entrance into Maumelle, and it is currently blocked off and has been blocked off for many years. And spoke with one of the residents down there. They have a very safe neighborhood because they all watch for strange cars moving slowly through the neighborhood, which was what I was doing. And anyway, I had an interesting conversation, and she said their primary concerns with the activity there would be any chance of the road being reopened over the railroad tracks from Maumelle. They'd like to see that closed. They don't want to have a lot of traffic. They would like to see a wall of some kind between the new development and their neighborhood. I suppose that could be a privacy fence or whatever, but and just anything to keep the traffic down. I think one positive aspect of maybe annexation is she shared with me that she had a hard time getting sheriff's deputies to come out with suspicious activity because the car on duty might be in England, Arkansas. And so she said, yeah, maybe having the police close by would be a good deal. So just thought I'd share those, and I'm still not convinced that that's the best thing to do there is to annex that property because I just don't see where it does Maumelle that much good. But I'm not strong one way or the other, but I'm probably a no vote on this. Thank you.
All right, any additional discussion? Seeing none, it'll be on third reading at the next City Council meeting. Next item of business is the second reading of Ordinance 1041, Amendment to the Land Use Plan and Map. Madam City Clerk, if you could please read that by title only.
Be it enacted by the City Council of the City of Maumelle, County of Pulaski, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled Ordinance Number 1041, an ordinance amending the Maumelle Land Use Plan and Map due to annexation and for other purposes.
All right, this is on second reading. If there's no discussion, it'll be on third reading at the next City Council meeting. Seeing none, we will move on to the second reading of Ordinance 1042, Amendment to the Zoning Map. Madam City Clerk, if you could please read that by title only.
Be it enacted by the City Council of the City of Maumelle, County of Pulaski, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled Ordinance Number 1042, an ordinance amending the Maumelle zoning map due to annexation and for other purposes.
This too is on second reading. If there's no discussion, it'll be on third reading at the next City Council meeting. Seeing none, that concludes new business, or unfinished business, and we'll move on to new business. The only item for new business is the appointment of planning commissioner. We have two applicants. What I would request is that Mr. Mallett, if you wouldn't mind stepping out into the map room, Mr. Mallett here. Okay, the city attorney just informed me that he experienced a loss in the family very recently in the last several days. So, yeah, so I won't ask him to leave the room. All right, I guess we'll just call up Miss Winek. Did I say that right? You've told me how to pronounce it. Okay. I had a waning confidence there.
It's Winek.
Winek. Thank you. I apologize. Outstanding. What we'll do is give the council a chance to ask a couple questions. We've had a chance to look at the packet that was in the council packet, but maybe if you'd like to take a minute and just introduce yourself to the council and let them know anything you want them to know.
Sure. Good evening, Mayor Norris and members of City Council. I want to thank you for having this opportunity with me to discuss my qualifications for a seat on the Planning Commission. So I have two sons. I could always say they're wonderful, but as children, you know, we're parents. But my sons are married. I am blessed to have 6 granddaughters and 1 grandson. My oldest still lives in Ohio with his family, and my youngest is here in Maumelle. So in January of 2018, I took a position down here with Catholic Health Initiatives and moved from Ohio to live with my son. And in those first 4 months, I explored and wanted to see where I would live. Where would I make my home? Well, it's Maumelle, and I built my home on Eagle Ridge Drive. So I've been here now almost 4 years, 3.5 years, and have enjoyed where I am and what I do. Some background on me, I believe you have the career background. So while I work through the positions I've had, I have served on planning committees for the organizations that I work with. So when there was new construction or remodeling, I would be on those committees in the role for risk management and quality. So we've done new wings to hospitals, we've remodeled and built new wellness centers in the time that I worked. I also served on the HOA, the Homeowners Association that I lived in Berea for 13 years on their what's called the design committee. So, you know, got to see what people wanted to do and remodel and all of that. That's me.
Well, great, thank you. Thank you very much. I have a feeling there will be at least one question. Councilmember Saunders?
Thank you, Mayor. Well, first of all, thank you for applying. And I'm not trying to grill you, but I nearly always ask these kind of questions. And just to kind of give us a feel for your background, other than I understand about POAs and HOAs and that sort of thing, and I've looked through your resume, but you know, Planning Commission, our City Planning Commission does different kinds of things too. So I have 2 questions for you. First of all, you've been here 3.5 or 4 years. In that time, how many times have you actually attended a Planning Commission meeting in Maumelle?
I have attended one last week. I made it my duty to observe. What I have been doing, though, since the pandemic, I do online review of the council meetings, and I always review Councilman Gardner's notes and updates.
Yeah, this COVID has changed our lives, hasn't it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, second question, and this is just off the top of your head. Can you give me an overview of the kinds of things that our Planning Commission does and what you'd be doing?
Sure. Also based on my observation. So the appointed body, they're reviewing requests or how our land in Maumelle will be used and developed, whether it's subdivisions, annexations, rezoning, large corporate developments, so it's my understanding, it's helping to plan the growth of Maumelle and the development of Maumelle within the zones and structure that we have.
Actually, I've been doing this 10.5 years, and we've appointed several planning commission people. And I think that's one of the best answers I've heard. Because I always ask that question.
All right,
So
well,
that's a
maybe it's
good-
because
good answer.
I worked on attending the meeting, and that helped me visualize better.
Okay, well,
Thank
thank you,
you.
that's all I've got.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Any additional questions? Councilmember Mosley?
Yes, do you have any observations about Maumelle that you feel like maybe are problems in Maumelle and that the planning commission should be aware of that would make our community better?
I would say the growth seems to be happening fast, but I see Maumelle as a young city. I came from historic cities, Amherst, Ohio. I think they were founded in 1800. Berea, same thing. So this city is very young, and I look at all the possibilities and the growth it has. So that to me is exciting versus looking at it as what we're not doing. Are there opportunities? I can't say I could tell you one directly. I have a personal one that I might take up one day, but I don't think it would impact the city. I love
Okay.
Maumelle.
All right, all right. I'm always, as I mentioned last time we had an appointment, I'm always looking for mainstream residents to be on, like the planning commission, not necessarily an engineer or somebody that's been involved in the developer community. So I have no idea how this vote will come out, but even if you don't get selected tonight, please put your name back in and keep, attend lots of those meetings and stuff. That is, the planning commission is probably the most intricate thing that goes on here in Maumelle. I try to attend as many as I can, and I've been on the council 8 years, and I'm still grappling with some things. And so anyway, I definitely appreciate your interest. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Outstanding. I don't have any additional public comments, so thank you. Y'all should have a ballot in front of you. Please fill out the ballot. Make sure you print your name so that it is legible, as it's a matter of public record. If your signature is legible, oddly enough, then that'll suffice.
Mayor, decision has been made. Ms. Winnick, you have won with 7-1 votes. Welcome to the Planning Commission.
Thank you very much for volunteering. I'm sure impressive. That might be the first applause for the appointment of a planning commissioner I've seen. Maybe not. I don't know. I'm sure Mr. Grummer will be chasing you out the door to give you some information, and welcome aboard.
Thank you all very much.
All right, that concludes new business. We'll move on to mayor's comments. Y'all should have seen an email I sent out with the census results. We finally got it back for the city. The population following the last census was 19,251. So personally, I was hoping for 20,000. We didn't quite get there. We saw a 12.2% growth over the last decade. which was number 1 in Pulaski County, which had as a total about a 4.3% growth over that same time. So that's always nice to hear. Saline County, Benton Bryant, and a lot of other areas saw really large amounts of growth. But as far as those cities in Pulaski County, we get the trophy. So thank you to Maumelle, who I was at Community Development Institute not long ago and talking about the census and what a lot of folks had to do to push to get people to complete the surveys. And it was refreshing that Maumelle had such a high self-response rate. I think we got number 2 in the state for self-response rates at the end of it all. So it's always refreshing to know that Maumelle wanted to be counted and was counted. With that, we'll move on to council member comments. Councilmember Mosley.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment here, and it's intended to be constructive. I attended the last planning commission meeting, and it seems like there were a lot of things. It's another big agenda. It's going to be another big one, and there's a lot of things on there that involved asking for variances and various tweaks to the law to get something done. And I think it bothered the planning commissioners to be faced with some of those. They're probably torn a little bit with helping developers out and sticking with the law. One of those is the Pfeiffer property that we tabled the rezoning on. The idea is that the other side, the Harris property, needs some dirt, and they're hoping to get a variance from our ordinance involving grading. Right now, we don't have a grading ordinance, and it prohibits that. But they want a variance, and that's a big variance as far as I'm concerned. And what it would do is they would bypass the timber management plan that we've got in place in order to get a variance. I haven't thought this through completely yet. I have had some discussions with Mr. Grimmer on that, expressing my concerns. But what I would like to hope is that the Planning Commission will stick with city code and stick with the law as much as possible. And I don't think they're there or we're here to make life easy for somebody, to help them with their profits and that sort of thing. They undertake their own risk when they go out to do something, and if something's unforeseen, it's not our job to bail them out. So that's my thought. Thanks.
Thank you. If I could take a little moment to respond, I think a variance one is usually applied for by the applicant, which is oftentimes the business that is applying for the variance. That does not necessarily mean that it is as binary as pro-developer versus anti-resident. In the case of the dirt being moved between Pfeiffer, this is something that personally I think would be a great idea, because the alternative is running approximately 4,500 trucks of dirt up the boulevard and down through traffic, putting extra burdens on the streets, the side roads, and all of this, which is not a developer burden. That's a city of Maumelle and a Maumelle resident burden. And that's just for one side. If you then come back later on and then they have to clear the dirt out of the other side, you're looking at more vehicles than that. So in the interest of reducing traffic, protecting our street infrastructure, it was something that was originally proposed by that business, but that we think positively impacts the residents as opposed to the alternative. So. Councilmember Williams.
Thank you. I just wanted to let everybody know that October 1st at 11 o'clock at the Senior Center, there will be a reception, and we're all invited. You are all invited for the renaming of the Club Manor Cove to Jackie Johnson Cove. And I'd love to see a good turnout of our leadership.
What's the date?
October 1st at 11 o'clock.
11.
October 1st. What day is it? It's a good day.
Thank you.
Friday. It's on a Friday.
Any additional council member comments? Councilmember Mosley?
Yeah, I just wanted to add one other thing. I think probably one of my concerns about the dirt transfer from place to place is my worry is that when it's graded off of one side and taken to the other side, that side where it was graded off, there's no guarantee that anything else is going to be built there. I mean, if there was something that was ready to be built, we've got preliminary plat all through and all that, then I wouldn't have any trouble with it. But it may sit there. There's no guarantee something will be built there. It may be a lot like what we've got down here next to Kroger. So just wanted to point that out and ask that be taken into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any additional council member comments? Seeing none, Madam, really quickly, don't forget the next council meeting is on Tuesday, not Monday. Madam City Attorney?
I did just want to point out that the designation order was sent out by the Public Service Commission today. I believe that was emailed to you all directly. So we do have an administrative law judge that was designated on our case. That's all.
Thank you. Madam City Clerk?
No comments.
Outstanding. At this time, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I've got a motion. Do I hear a second? Second. I've got a motion and a second. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
All opposed, no. Motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you very much.
We know enough of us do.